This is the Khoa Bui Show. Khoa Bui is an author, international speaker, and entrepreneur. He started his first business selling music CDs in high school at the age of 16. He then went on and built several businesses. He is the founder of River Designs, a marketing company that helps businesses get more exposure online and offline. He has appeared on TV, radio, newspaper, and magazines from around the world. He has written and published several books and created various products. Khoa Bui is also an international speaker, corporate trainer, and speaks on topics of business, entrepreneurship, motivation, health, marketing, and online business. You can check out his blog site at www.khoa-bui.com. And now, your host, Mr. Khoa Bui.
All right, so Louise Bedford is one of Australia's most compelling speakers on the share market, as well as being in the markets for over 20 years. She's trained thousands of people to maximize her trading potential. She is a best-selling author of various books, including Trading Secrets, Charting Secrets, Let the Trade Winds Flow, and much more. She has degrees in psychology and business and has done the hard yards in the share market, so you can shortcut your way to success by following her methods. So please welcome to the show, Louise Bedford.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So I bought your books a few years ago, and I really like the way you write them, and it's all about trading and everything. So I was thinking, like, just before we get into the questions, I was thinking, how long did it take for you to write those books, by the way?
Look, the first one took a little while. The first one was my options book. Okay. And the day that my options book got delivered, it was like holding a newborn baby. It was so exciting. Yeah. I hugged it, and then I wrote the book I really wanted to write, which was The Secret of Candlestick Charting. That was the one they wouldn't let me go for. They thought it was too kind of weird, out there, strange. It's a 300-year-old technique. So they really weren't keen on me going with that as my leading title. And then the other two they just said yes to because the candles one was such a winner. It was an instant bestseller. So Trading Secrets and Charting Secrets, they came along, just my little family of my 4 babies.
Nice. It's like giving birth to a book. It takes a long time to write.
It really is. Yeah, I think it might be easier than the real thing, having had 2 of my own.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Have you always been a writer? Like, did you pick this up, like when when you were growing up and stuff, or like was it just something later on you decided to do, or like?
Look, I've loved writing. One of the things with writing I find is it's a direct source into your unconscious. So some of the things that you have been struggling with and grappling with, if you write it down, it's like a form of therapy. It's all there on the page for you. One of the techniques that I follow is a morning journal. And I write every day through my journals over the past few years, and I spot patterns and sequences in my life, and I use that to improve myself and to improve my relationships as well.
Okay, all right. So people who don't know you, like I was thinking, how did you get started in trading as well? So you mentioned you started off with your options book, but how did you get interested, and how did I
get going? Yeah. Well, look, I used to have a real job. Trading's not really a real job. You don't do it for that long per day, as you know. I was a sales manager, and I had a little niggle in this finger just over the course of a few days, and I ignored it, as you do, because everybody's got little aches and pains. But unfortunately, my number was up, and over the course of 2 weeks, that pain travelled right up my right arm, and then my left arm instantly affected as well. I lost the use of both of my arms for almost 3 years. I had to leave my job. I was devastated. Everybody told me from the medical side of things that you may never get better. You just have to adjust. This is your new life. Get a carer, make sure that your husband's on course here. And I don't think I could have been any lower at all. And I don't know if you've ever stared into that pit yourself. But you find out who you really are. You find out when your back is to the wall what sort of person lives inside. And sometimes that person is a scared, terrified little girl. And other times she's a big, strong woman that can take on the world. So I had been trading alongside my job not very well. It took me 3 years to break even. And when my arm situation struck, I was 5 years in.
Wow.
However, so I had a bit of background, but I have to say, I started trading as if my life depended on it. I could type with a pen in my mouth. I literally used to put a pen in my mouth like this, tap on the keyboard and type. I had my broker on speed dial, who was a wonderful person. He used to do the maths for me on his calculator because I couldn't type and talk because I had the pen in my mouth. And I just discovered a whole new world. I realized that it didn't matter if I didn't move my arms. It didn't matter if I didn't get better. It was one of those situations where a whole new world had suddenly been revealed, and I suddenly got my dignity back. It was one of those situations where you go, I can see a sliding doors moment. Without trading, here is where I would end up. But with trading, who knows what could be? And that's where it really came together for me. So I traded since then, following a trading plan, following a trading system, doing everything I could to work on my mindset, to develop myself, and to make sure that my focus was in the right place.
That's really, it's really interesting, because it's like you're pushed against the wall and you had to figure out how to make it work. So, you had the pen in your mouth and you had to figure out how to come up with a trading system and just trying to figure out how to make this thing work without you moving around too much, isn't it? Right.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. And you did a lot of digging as well when you were looking in the mirror as well. So okay.
Oh my gosh. And I read so much too, there's so many things that you can get from books and from the people that you associate with. I tried to hang out with people who would encourage me. At that stage, mid-20s, okay, just to put the date on it, is some of my people that were hanging out with me then, they'd seen somebody ambitious rising up the corporate ladder, and then they really didn't want to be a part of this new disabled life. I mean, luckily now I can move. I've got my feeling back. I can move again, which is fantastic. But it was a very expensive process, going to loads of medical professionals, loads of physiotherapists, and it was quite bleak. So in a lot of ways, trading, it saved my life. It saved my dignity. It gave me back self-worth, and there's no finer gift.
Yeah, that's what really drew me into trading as well, because, one day you never know what's going to happen. You could be just trucking along, you're just working in your job, and then all of a sudden something happens and you need to figure out how to make money from home without moving around and everything. And yeah, that's what really drew me into trading. All right, then. You also mentioned about your friends as well. Like they didn't appreciate you rising up the ranks as well. Like, were you surrounded by unmotivated people, or did you sort of like look around for different mentors, and did that help you? Yeah. Okay.
That's a really good question. Look, when I was in my job, like the career job, there were a lot of benefits to hanging out with people in the workforce, because you get the side benefit of social interaction. As a trader, it's quite lonely. So I hung out with the people from the disabled pool that I went to, where there was a hydrotherapy pool. And we were all in various states of decay. We called ourselves the mutants, which probably isn't all that polite, is it? But it was because we were calling ourselves the mutants. It was fine. And I started teaching them how to trade. Wow. So I hung out with them. A lot of them have since fallen by the wayside. Some of them were terminal, but the ones that stuck with it became beautiful traders. I had my group, I had my squad, and I was ready for action. And then I started hanging out with people who went to the stock exchange, and I didn't find too many mates there. However, I started reading and I started looking at what they were looking at, and I realized sometimes the crowd is not where you need to be. Sometimes you have to work out your own path, and that was a difficult process as well.
I know people who, when you're looking at trading, it just looks too intimidating. It looks like it's reserved for the people who are super smart, the elites, right? And the ones, who know how to do a lot of mathematics. It just looks too technical, but you seem to, be able to teach the people around you to trade and trade well as well. How did you overcome that mental barrier to overcome that challenge? Because that's really tough.
It's amazing. Yeah, it is tough. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you get desperate. I think with trading, it's one of those things where you can fail your way to success. Like if you were a cardiac surgeon and you lost 8 people out of 10, then there'd be a big problem and people would stop coming to you. Whereas with traders, you fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, you win. Hey, I won. You fail, you fail, you fail, you win big. You fail, you fail, you win huge. Then you fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, and you just get so tough. You get a thick skin and you really start to take it in your stride, and it becomes more normal. You know, what is your normal? It's a hard situation. For your normal in the rest of your life, if you failed 50% of the time, you would feel like a failure. Whereas traders, we have to have a really thick skin to be able to get through that feeling.
Okay, so let me just branch off a tiny bit away from the trading. So from building the thick skin from failing and trading and you know, fail, but then you win, do you think that will affect other areas of your life as well? You know, in overcoming rejection and everything? Do you think that will? Yeah, completely.
Okay. It is the best therapy mirror to look into with the markets. I think the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you can develop resilience in one area, it can translate to other areas. You know, I might look like a marshmallow, but oh my God, I'm so strong now because of this.
You're mentally strong, I can tell. So
it's incredible what it does for you, where if you allow yourself to put yourself out there and to just shine the torch through the dark and to step into that light and then shine again, you know, build on little bit by little bit by little bit. It's incredible when you look back what you can achieve. I believe that most people underestimate what they can achieve in the long term, but they overestimate what they can achieve in the short term. You know, you see on Facebook, I'm going to lose 10 kilos in the next week. And, you know, they talk up such a big game. But really often those people aren't the ones that are achieving those goals because they've overestimated what they can achieve in the short term. And that can be a mistake.
Yeah, it's also a bit dangerous when you're comparing as well when you're on Facebook and you're looking at other people.
Oh, my gosh, yes. I just urge my traders that I train in my mentor program to unplug. Don't get swept away with comparing the highlight reel on everybody else's feed with your own life. You are not showing all of your life when you're on Facebook. It's a very slanted view.
Yeah. It's the other day I was on Instagram and you know there's people posting their profits and it makes it look so easy, you know, like they just press a button and then all of a sudden they get all this money and stuff. It just looks so easy and then you see their followers and it can really mess with your thinking, I guess. But what you just said was really important, I guess. It's about, you know, unplugging from social media and just focusing on your own game. So when you were just starting off as a trader, what were your initial challenges that you had to overcome?
Yeah, so many. There was working out what a trader looks like. What does a good trader look like? You know, I read a book a while ago by Tanya Moa called Playing Big. And the good thing about that is it said, imagine yourself in 20 years' time. Imagine the best version of you in 20 years' time. And imagine that person was giving advice to the younger you. What would they say? What would they look like? Where would they live? Who would they be waking up beside? Where would they go on holidays? So it gives you an idea where you'd like to move to in your heart of hearts. You know, one of the things when I got started trading is that there were not a lot of successful traders around the place. So I did not know what good looked like. I didn't know what that 20-year-on version of myself as a trader would look like. That identity is so hard to come to grips with to begin with. And now, I mean, there are so many examples of good traders. There are so many people that you can go, hey, I could imagine that I could use that. I could be that person. I could act like that person. So identity, I think, is probably one of the major things. And also just learning what entry, exit, position sizing I was going to use, the specifics. You know, you can have a brilliant mindset and a bad trading plan and you won't make money. You have to have both going in conjunction with each other. So yeah, every aspect was a struggle.
Okay. It sounded like you were also working on your beliefs as well. Maybe it's a bit tricky to really believe that, you know, you can be a successful trader. So how did you overcome those limiting beliefs? Was it you just compared yourself, or you just you looked at like successful traders and you just hung around them so it became reality? Is that what you did?
It took a very long time for me to find any examples of success. So think back to the mid-90s. That's when we were talking about. Chris Tate's book hadn't been out, okay, when I was starting to look around. So Chris Tate is now my business partner. Yeah, there weren't many traders back then. So, you know, it was tough going. So I didn't really have a lot of examples to be drawn towards. But certainly one of the things that I really focused on was just being the best trader that I could be. So maybe one day I didn't do so well. So I'd say, what could I do differently? You know, and just learning from that, keeping a trading diary, writing things down or recording them if you have a difficulty with writing the way that I did. So that to me was invaluable. Yeah.
Okay, so when you were trading at the start and, you know, you probably made a loss, how did you, like, what was your mental script that was running in your head when you had the loss? Like,
gosh,
what was it?
That is a really good question. I'll give you an example of a loss that I feel was a turning point for me. Okay. So picture this. I'd finished my role in my job. I thought, oh my goodness, I need to replace my income. My broker had told me there was a way to write options, and it was a way of getting little bits of income along the way. You didn't have to wait to sell a share. It was a monthly type of basis. I was so excited. So rather than learn too much about it, I put my own money in, which can be a good way to learn, but it can also hurt.
Scary.
Because my back was to the wall. You know, I had limited time, and I needed to make money. You know, it's that sort of level of desperation, and I made a loss with my first options trade. It was $238.40.
A lot of money.
Oh my gosh, at that time I cried and cried and cried. It was what that loss represented. It was
bag of groceries.
Oh my goodness. But am I going to be a failure? Am I ever going to be able to do this? Is this going to be something I can conquer? And I could feel inside me, and certainly it's something that I think a lot of women combat as well. Will I be good enough? Am I worthy? Is this something that I'm really going to be able to do? And maybe everybody knows more than I do, and that's why they've done so well. And in a nutshell, that's the imposter syndrome at work, where you feel like a fraud for your successes, and for your failures you take full credit for because you deserve that failure. And to spin that around has been quite a trick. And I can see the traders that I train struggle with it, and I can see them peck their way out of their shell and finally fly. And it's a beautiful feeling.
Wow. Okay, you touched on something that was really interesting about the imposter syndrome. So can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's that little voice. It's that little voice that says, I'm not good enough.
Okay.
And do you know, so many people have this. If you actually analysed your own self-talk, where you were totally honest with yourself and you wrote down the thoughts going through your brain, how many of those are negative? I'm guessing a heck of a lot. Yeah.
Write a novel on that.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not being a good friend to yourself. It's something that if you are truly a good friend to a friend of yours, you would never say those things to that person because they wouldn't want to hang out with you. But you can't escape yourself. You're in your own head saying those things to yourself day in, day out. So the first step with that is to become aware. That person that you hear, that voice, that scathing, belittling voice is not your friend, and you need to kick it out. You need to address it. And Dr. Harry Stanton, the book that I wrote with Dr. Harry Stanton, Let the Trade Winds Flow, Dr. Harry's a beautiful psychologist. I love him. He's gorgeous. I have hero worshipped him since I was 15 years old. Gorgeous man, and now he's my friend, which is so exciting. It is, isn't it? I love it when that sort of thing can happen. Harry Stanton says what you do is you hear the tone of that voice. So for me, that tone is, oh, I can't believe you did that again. It's a very sarcastic, snarly, lip curly type of voice. And you change it. You change it to something hilarious. Change it to Minnie Mouse. Change it to Daffy Duck. Change it to something that's really crazy. Oh, how dare you do that, Louise? I can't believe you did that again. And how can you take that seriously? You strip it of its power. You detooth that tiger. And that to me has been a wonderful technique. And I've carried that through, not just for trading, but in every area.
So it's about changing the tone of voice and probably...
Yes, yes. And for a lot of people, that tone of voice... I've got 4 years of psychology behind me, so I always go into the psychology side because I just find it fascinating. But that tone of voice, if you really analyse that tone of voice can sometimes be the voice of a parent. So if you think of early attachment theory where we are dependent on our parents for everything, and if you have some sort of rejection, that can actually be a survival issue. If you are hearing that parental voice inside your head and you recognize it, it's time you grew up and you combated that and you looked eye to eye with that scathing parent in your head. It might not even be your real parent. It might be that voice that's got you stuck in a childhood way of seeing the world. And that's something I work a lot with my traders on. There are levels of baggage that we have as adults. And it's time we started to stop looking in our rearview mirror and looking behind us. Who are you now and who do you want to be? And be drawn rather than being chased.
If I want to change the voices and the internal dialogue in my head, so you're recommending to just keep at it, just whenever it appears, you just keep changing it, replace it with something, and then over time it just becomes natural. Is that right?
That's right. I think the repetition of any action, it's just recognizing it in the first place, though. A lot of people have that difficulty. They start feeling bad, but they don't know why because they haven't analyzed it. So now for the people watching this and to listen to it as well, think about how you can be a better friend to yourself. Think about what you can do when you hear that berating sound, and you'll find ways of overcoming it. Some people wear an elastic band and they twang themselves on the wrist. I think it's a bit brutal for me. I prefer to treat myself with care and love because then I exude care and love. I would prefer to be more kind to myself. So, yeah. Have you done any inner child work? Have you heard of that?
I did. I've looked at the whole NLP where, you do change the voice, but you can also change the images in your head. So let's say that you remember a certain situation that is, maybe it's humiliating or embarrassing, and that just keeps replaying in your head, and then you just change the image in your head where you just turn it into black and white. You put like a clown nose on their nose.
Yeah. So you're a bit familiar with some things like this. Yeah, that's good.
And also the Dixon process where you analyze the your own beliefs, where you might have some negative beliefs that you have right now, and it's really painful. But then you carry those beliefs with you. You look at yourself in the mirror, and then you carry that with you in 5 years' time. And then, how do you feel about it now? Do you look older? Do you look less energy? And then let's fast forward in 10 years, 20 years. What are those beliefs taking you? How do you feel about those beliefs? So I think that's what you mentioned at the start about the 20-year process.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. All right then. So how about the growth? You mentioned about the growth mindset as well. Like, what's that all about?
There are two ways of looking at a challenge. They've done a load of studies on this actually, and it's a good thing to Google. Whether you see a challenge as something that is, hey, I think I can do this, but it's a bit hard, but I think I can do this. Or I will never be able to do that. And my intelligence where it is now is fixed. It isn't malleable. Now, what they've found with some of the studies with this is that if children are praised for the outcome, so, hey, that's great, Johnny, you got an A. what happens with that child is they go, I have to always get A's. It doesn't matter what I do, I just have to get an A. If you praise a child for the process and you say, I can see that you've worked hard, I can see that you're trying, I can see that you're aiming to do well, but you don't worry so much about the outcome, that child is more likely to do well in the future. They are less likely to cheat on tests because they don't have to have that A type of identity in their mind. And they end up happier. They take on new challenges with a lot more vigor. So that's where we need to be, that growth mindset where intelligence is not fixed and it is something that we can alter ourselves and we can change over time.
Okay, so your approach towards everything, it's coming from a source of love and self-care. But I know a lot of other people who, they approach things through like a battle mindset. You know, I think in your book you mentioned, you know, for guys, we tend to do a lot of, you know, revenge trading and we have like this ego thing, but for you, you've got a different perspective, and you sort of like know how to remove the ego and just trade without emotion, I guess.
Yeah, it's tricky that. One of the things I'd suggest people do is have a look at your core values. Okay. Now, for me, it's love, nurture, and inspiration. They're my 3 top values. Now, everything has to be in line with those values. Firstly, for me to say yes to it, like this interview. So well done, because you got me.
Oh, thank you. I feel so
And secondly, if you are in line with those core values, you'll have more energy. You'll be able to apply yourself to a greater degree. You'll have that growth mindset to push through your barriers. So I even find for my traders, some of my traders end up self-sabotaging because they are not in line with those values. They can't find that within them. They can't find that congruence, and that's when they stray off path. So values are important. I do think guys go with a more combative type of stance, though. I think testosterone makes you a little bit more that way, and that's not a bad thing, but certainly to find ways to have an outlet. You know, some of the bloke traders do have particular problems, and this is not just saying it from my perspective. This is based on double-blind studies. So testosterone can make you vicious. The biggest tool that I have for you with this is the morning journal. I'll tell you a little bit about that. Okay. I am hot on the trail. I'm in week 10 of my own mentor program at the moment, and we've just handled the psychology week. These stories that people have come out with, oh my gosh. I think we all take our past into our current, and it can be difficult to shake that. The morning journal is such a good tool. It was originally inspired by Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way. She talked about morning pages, but I've called mine a morning journal. I didn't realise her book was out when I came up with this idea myself, conjoint evolution, as these things happen. But read her book, The Artist's Way.
The Artist's Way, okay. Thanks.
The idea is that you pour out for half an hour every morning. Just keep that pen moving, everything on your mind. So put it all down onto paper. You will find the first 4 weeks are very easy. The pen keeps flowing. You've got a lot to talk about. And then after about that time, your mind starts to wander and you think of other things to do, and you might forget your practice of writing and you get distracted. And that is when the insights pour out of you. I have a recurring thing happening with my sister. It was all there on the morning journal. I had a little trade twitch that I used to experience. Right there in the morning journal. There are so many things that have poured out of me where I've just gone, oh my gosh, look at that. It's in black and white. So that would be probably my biggest hitter of a tool for this sort of thing. It really is the best form. I have kept journals since 1987, I think, was my first one. So very, very long time ago. Wow. And occasionally I'll read back, and I don't always read back. Sometimes I rip out the pages and destroy them. Make sure it's under lock and key, or that you have a family that you trust, because you don't want anybody reading this. This is not for writing style. This is for pure access to the unconscious.
Would you consider yourself an introvert or extrovert? You're more of an introvert?
I'm an ambivert. I think I'm both.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got the
Your INFP?
extrovert.
Maybe delving too much.
That might be a whole other show.
Yeah, that's good. There we go. Oh, back off. Yeah. So you're ambivert,
I've got
okay.
the extrovert part where I love people and I get a lot of energy from people, but I have the introspective aspect as well. And I
That does help,
depend.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think it is a useful association. And it's a good thing because I have a child who's an extrovert and a child who's an introvert, and it helps me relate with both of them. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. Okay. So we mentioned failing your way to success as well. How about resilience as well? This is a big one too. When you're going through so much, pain and failure, how do you get through all those, all of the challenges and everything? How did you develop that resilience?
Yeah, it's a tough way when everything around you is falling down and it almost seems like you're the magnet for bad attention and bad things. Yeah, I've definitely been there. One of the things with resilience, and I don't see this talked about much, it's being a good animal. Now, by that, I mean, look after your sleep, look after how much you're drinking, the alcoholic variety, not the green tea variety.
Yep.
Look at who is around you, who's your pack, who's your squad, who's there to help you. And I think that whole being a good animal comes into almost every area of resilience. If you don't have enough fuel in the tank, you won't have enough energy to pour out to others. And probably the only other thing that I've got on that I think is really relevant is to take your eyes off yourself and to put them onto other people. When I was so sad that I could barely move, I found other people that I could help. And that opened up my world again. It made me see my whole life through different eyes. I've got a fellow trader, Jim, who has 2% vision. He trades with a magnifying glass on his peripheral vision. It's not even, center vision. So he trades with a magnifying glass beside him with a huge screen that he can look at. And that's how he trades. I taught him how to trade by doing plasticine for the candle charts. Like I folded up plasticine and then he got to feel it. And after he could feel it, he knew what he was looking for on the screen. Now, I'm nowhere near in that situation, nowhere near. So Jim, I think, has been an inspiration for me. He thinks I inspired him. I got just as much. I actually said to Jim, how do you handle your blackness? He said when he was 18, he went to a friend's house who dragged him to this place, a mutual friend. The friend was very happy, and he introduced him to his brother, and the brother was a thalidomide victim.
What
had
victim?
A thalidomide.
Thalidomide.
Do you know thalidomide?
No.
Thalidomide was, Jim's a bit older. I was going to say than us, but I'm flattering myself.
You're very young, Louise. It's okay.
Thalidomide was a drug that they gave to women who were pregnant and had morning sickness, and it caused awful birth defects. So children were born with partial arms, partial legs, sometimes no arms, sometimes just a hand out of a little stalk from their body. And when Jim saw his friend of a friend's brother crawling up the hallway, Jim went, "What the heck? I've got about 4% vision at that stage, but look at this person in front of me. He can barely even have a life that he knows of, So I think there's always somebody worse than you, and there's always somebody you can help."
Your technique was instead of, when you're in that situation, instead of focusing on yourself and how miserable you are or how much pain, you got out of yourself and you just looked at other people and just started helping other people, and that sort of like got you out of that introspection, I guess, too much of introspection, and just seeing, what other people are going through just makes you, become inspired by what the courage people have and what they're going through. Is that right?
And there probably is one less kind version of this as well. I think it's a twin prong here. The one that I also combated was people's opinions of me. Now, I had an accountant at that stage. I thought he was behind me. When I had a full-time job, he was behind me. He thought it was great. When I lost the use of my arms, he said to me, "You can't be a full-time trader. Not you. Look at you." And he actually laughed. He laughed in my face. And that stirred something within me that I had never ever felt before, and I can't even define it now. It wasn't just, "I'm going to show you." It was like, "I'm going to squash you." And it's probably not a very nice side of anybody to admit. There is a blackness in everybody, isn't there? But that gave me a lot of motivation, and I stuck with that accountant until I guessed that I was earning more as a trader than he was earning full-time as an accountant. And then I left and I found a good accountant.
There you go. Beautiful.
But that revenge was a good,
There's nothing wrong with a bit of healthy revenge, right? So you just want to park your Ferrari, accidentally park it on your ex's lawn and say, "Oops, excuse me," right? So there you go.
And really as well, when I think back through the dumb things people have said to me over the years, my father said to me at one stage, "Just as well you have a good husband." And I'm just like, it's true. I do have a good husband, but I know what he meant by that. It meant that I didn't have to ever work again, and that my husband would look after me, and that I could be a 50s house. That inspired me in perhaps not such a good way as well. My uncle said to me when I produced my first book, he said to me, "Oh, that's so great. I always believed in you." But just a couple of years before that, he'd said, "You'll never make it as a trader. You'll never make it as a trader. Nobody in your situation can trade full time." If you take these things to heart and you don't follow it through to fruition, you don't get to look down on them from the top of the mountain.
How important is it to have like a supporting husband or wife on this journey? Is it people who want to get into trading and everything, they'll like you said, you came across the accountant who put you down, but there's also, your loving partner as well, whether they support you or not. Like, would you say that contributed a lot to your success in trading, having a supporting husband?
Yeah. I can tell you this is a big one that my traders face. If they're with somebody that doesn't see their vision for the family, it is very difficult. But I can guarantee that money acts as a brilliant anesthetic. It is incredible once that money starts pouring in, how your partner just tucks in alongside and doesn't even remember if they were not supportive. I think if you give up on your vision, on the way you can see your life, with or without that person beside you, they're probably not going to respect you as much anyway. So if you've got the vision for the family, you've got to keep on going. How do you protect yourself though? That's the thing. You need some techniques. One of my traders, he's happily married. However, his wife does not see the future the way this gentleman sees the future. He has got an agreement with her, and this is something that I work on a lot, to find an appropriate agreement. Women are often threatened by lack of safety, by, if you take my house away from me, where are my children going to live? We're going to end up homeless, and they catastrophize, they awfulize the situation. So what can...
Survival.
It is. It really is. And it's a real thing, I don't know whether anybody here has experienced, if you threaten a woman's security, what can happen. Like if you think of the mother tigress protecting her little cubs, that's what you've got here. So a lot of primal emotions are stirred. One of the things I suggest my traders do, and this is what this gentleman did with his wife, is he said, "Can you give me enough rope, enough jurisdiction here, but if we get to the point where I have lost 25% of our money, then I will get you involved and I'll consult a higher authority, and then we'll talk with them together about whether I should continue trading." Now, that is the circuit breaker. 25% of your money, you can handle that, because to lose 25% of your money, all you need to do is make 33.3% to break even again. So it's not catastrophic. It's not something that is completely awful that you'll never recover from. If you lose 75% of your money, oh my goodness, now you're talking, there's a big problem.
Yeah.
So stop it before it gets too bad, and get that agreement with your partner. Get that understanding that they need to give you a little bit of space, but if things get to the point where you need help, that you will seek help and you'll do it together. And I think that can soothe many a partner's frazzled nerves.
That's really good. You're very clear with the boundaries, or you're very clear with the limitations. 25% of your capital, and if it goes beyond that, then let's talk about the next step and everything. But if you don't,
often we get what we are prepared to tolerate. So if you're tolerating, I'm going to say it's not even true abuse, is it? But you know what I'm saying. It's an abuse in some way, whether it's a physical set of abuse, whether it's an emotional set of abuse, whether it's words. If you're tolerating that, unfortunately, you're going to get more of the same. So you have to circuit break that. You have to find a way to say, okay, this is where this behavior stops. One of the things to help people do that is I talk about a bubble technique. Now, I do use this with my sister, so it's not just for spouses. I imagine her words hitting the outside of a bubble that I have around me so that I'm completely enclosed, I'm safe inside, and that her words can't touch me. And since I've developed that level of detachment from her, it has just gone so much more smoothly, and it's almost like she's realized that she can't get to me so much, so she hasn't even been trying so much over the past few years. It's finding a technique that works for you. There's a certain level of detachment that's required, even from profit, in order to succeed, and sometimes that detachment has to come in some areas of your relationship.
So it's about being detached, right? Just when you get those negative situations, when you get the criticism, you just deal with it, where you just don't let it get into your mind, and like you
don't respond. Yes. Okay. And then go find your friends that actually are supportive of your goals. I think a lot of people underestimate the power of support and the value of the people around them. Without having people who are in your corner, it can be very, very lonely as an entrepreneur or a trader.
Do you meditate as well?
I do. My grandmother taught me how to meditate many, many years ago. Yeah.
Like every day? Like a few minutes every day?
Not every day, not every day, no. But I have taken it up with my son. My son's 14 now. He's downloaded the Smiling Mind app. If anybody has children, you might like to do this. And it takes you through guided meditations. So I'm hoping to pass that on to my children as well.
How about the books that you would recommend? What would your top 3 books would you?
I have prepared this one actually. This one. They're all fairly new books actually. This one, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Mm-hmm. I love this book. I love this book. I've sent it over to my friend Dr. Harry Stanton, and he read it and he rang me up and he was almost in tears. He's going, "Oh my God, you and I should have written this book. We should have written this book." And I'm going, "Yeah, I know, we really should have." The concept behind The Slight Edge is that you take something tiny that you can do regularly and you just build it up like a little building block to get to the Taj Mahal. So as an example, one of the things that I've done since this, I'm technically challenged, okay? I find technology to be a bit of a mystery and it irritates me, and I find I have that little voice going inside, "You can't do this, you'll never be able to do this." So after recognizing that was a gap, a year and a half ago, I decided to learn one tiny new piece of technology every day. So I've been doing that probably 80% of the time. I've learned something new every day. I can now turn on my oven remotely. I can use my TV. Oh my God. I know this doesn't sound like a big thing. You're a technical guy, but for me, it's huge. I have set up a closed Facebook group. I can record my own videos and post them up there. I can edit. Oh my God, I can edit on my phone. Who would have known that all of these wonders would have been revealed? And it's because of this book, The Slight Edge. So that's number 1. Number 2, Angela Duckworth, Grit. Angela Duckworth has written this book. It's brand new, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. Now, one of the major things I got out of this book is she talks about what's your big thing? What is the thing that is going to be a huge goal for you? Something that's ahead of you that is almost insurmountable, that scares the bejeebies out of you, and how to persevere to get there. My daughter and I are learning French. And that's a big thing. That is a really big thing. You know, we know people who are bilingual, they end up having fewer incidents of Alzheimer's. They end up being more flexible in their thinking. And what a fantastic skill. I mean, we could travel into so many countries if both of us know French. It'd be great. So that's our big thing. The other thing that book said, which I think is brilliant, I always wondered about what is the power of extracurricular activities. So should kids do, you know, dancing, soccer, you know, maybe it's just taking away from reading, writing and that type of core school skill. There's a study that Angela Duckworth talks about in here. It's a Harvard Business School study, and it shows that if kids do an extracurricular activity that they stick at for 2 years or more, that has a progression, so some sort of grading, that they end up happier and more likely to persevere, more highly paid, less likely to get divorced.
So there's some sort of connection with like extracurricular activities being physical and just, you know, taking some sort of well-being.
It can be something outside of school, though. It doesn't have to necessarily be physical. The idea is that there's progression, that you stick with it. So the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you can stick with a particular activity and progress, then you're more likely to do better in life. So that's a winner.
Okay. I think I saw her TED Talk. I think she did a TED Talk.
Yeah, she did. She did. Yeah. Oh, my God. I love her. She's fantastic.
Really good.
Yeah. Well worth the read. It's a good, it's an easy read too. It's similar to the Jeff Olson book. And probably the other one that I've been influenced a few years ago now, but Lean In. So Sheryl Sandberg was and I believe she still is, the chief operating officer of Facebook. Now, she's saying about with women that often women take a step back because we think we're going to have a baby in 10 years' time. Why go for the next promotion? Oh, the guys seem to be really doing well and they're crushing it and I have my self-doubts. Maybe I should just take less pay. And honestly, this is one of my pet topics at the moment. Women have no idea what they're capable of doing. And you know what? I'm not even blaming guys. We've done it to ourselves. With trading, women earn more than the blokes. There are study after study that show that.
Really? Okay.
Now,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Now they're tying it down. The studies that I've read, especially Barbara and Odine, if you want to look them up, they tie it down. Guys suffer overconfidence, therefore they overtrade.
Yeah.
And we were talking about testosterone. Yeah. They've actually done monkey studies with this too, that the alpha male actually secretes more testosterone in his urine. So, you know, leading the monkey troop, the alpha male has more testosterone. They've done a study showing with testosterone with guys. It's a small study in the UK that the guys who have higher levels of testosterone take more risks in the share market and they have higher levels of drawdown. So all of that combines. Women, we suffer a whole host of other issues that make us self-doubt. We think it's a male domain, so we don't ever pursue it because we think, hey, it's only for the guys. We self-doubt a lot. If you actually got inside a woman's mind and you heard all of the crud flowing around in there, it's appalling. And the other big one is we need to talk. I know that'll come as a surprise to a lot of people.
Something out of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, but that's a different.
Yeah. That's it. I can tell you all about it. Yeah. So the need to talk can detract from that introspection that we need to work on ourselves. We can surround ourselves with people who we think know more than us, and we doubt ourselves within that group. So that need to talk can foul us up as a trader, as an entrepreneur, and in life. So there's also a saying that stops me from talking, and I'm about to use this on myself right now: an empty vessel makes the most noise. So Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, Grit by Angela Duckworth, and Jeff Olson's The Slight Edge. They're the three I'd suggest. And if you're looking to learn about trading, of course, I've got some lovely books that I've produced. Trading Secrets and Charting Secrets would be the ones I'd suggest.
Great. All right. Well, thanks a lot for that. I really appreciate the the books and the knowledge and the wisdom that you've shared with us as well. So, how can people contact you, by the way?
Probably the best way is through going to my website, tradinggame.com.au. Tradinggame.com.au. Now, on the Trading Game website, you can register for a free 5-part e-course, and we can stay in touch in the coming months because I produce a newsletter. It's a lot to do with what we've discussed today. So ways to improve your mindset, to get better trading results, to get better results as an entrepreneur. So you'll get a monthly newsletter as well. And look, because this has just been beautiful and I have enjoyed our time together so much, I'm prepared to give you my personal email address. So your listeners can email me. Trading Secrets is my first book, so that's the book there. So if you email Louise at tradingsecrets.com.au, that email gets directly to me and I'll answer all of your listeners personally with any of the questions that they have.
So it's Louise at tradingsecrets.com.au, right?
That's it.
Okay.
Yes.
No worries. Well, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate you sharing all your wisdom and all your knowledge and the techniques that you use, and thanks a lot for that. I wish you all the best, Louise, and let's keep in contact.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate it.